Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Johnson edition, and we turn now to poem 581. I found the words to every thought. In many ways, we're back to poem 276. Do you guys remember when we played this game? Many a phrase has the English language I've heard, but one, low as the laughter of the cricket, loud as the thunder's tongue, murmuring like old Caspian choirs when the tides are low, saying itself in new inflection like a whippoorwill, breaking in bright orthography on my simple sleep, thundering its perspective till I stir and weep, not for the sparrow done me, but the push of joy. Say it again, Saxon. Hush, only to me. Of course, this word prospective will be an important one in our study here. We're back to another definition poem, as we've been referring to them. Many ways, we're back to what some scholars have called Emily's flood subject. That is the question of immortality and afterlife. What is it going to mean to die? Exactly what does it mean? Now, our assumptions that you've been following are stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side's Chat with Emily's our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments. I'm hopeful that you've worked through the preceding 580 poems. We just finished with 580. I gave myself to him. And if you have, then you already know that you can place this poem with others. For example, we remember when we did 441, this is my letter to the world that never wrote to me. Remember her comments about nature's majesty, the message of nature. I also want you to pay attention to the personal "your" of this poem as well when we arrive at it. I found the words to every thought I ever had but one, and that defies me, as a hand did try to chalk the sun to races nurtured in the dark. Or, how would your own begin? Can blaze be shown in Cachanel, or noon in Marazan? Now, I think this is a fascinating poem because of her use of the rhetorical questions. Notice at the end, there are some things that are, as we have said for Emily, translinguistic. You can't explain them in words, even though she's trying. Notice we begin with words. She says, I found the words to every thought. Now, it's possible that Emily and her love of Browning, and especially her reading of Porphyria's Lover, I found a thing to do. Go back, we've given full lectures on it at learnstrong.net. This I found phrase is possible that she's echoing it from that poem. Notice, I found the words to every thought. I can't help but think of Hamlet, the play, and you'll remember as he comes on stage and Polonius asks him, what is it you read? He says it, words, words, words. We've given full lectures on Hamlet at learnstrong.net as well. I found the words to every thought I ever had. It's obviously hyperbolic. It's an overstatement. It's exaggeration. In other words, I'm really gifted with words. I can come up with words for every thought that I ever had, dash. But one, notice capitalized one, dash. And that defies me, right? And then she'll use this interesting simile. It defines me to come up with the right word for this thought, as a hand did try to chalk the sun, explain or draw the sun, to races nurtured in the dark. Now, of course, there's a heart of darkness, reference almost seeming here, right? As we'll come to it later in our studies. There seems to be, though, an observation here that's very Platonic. It's back to Republic, Book 7. In other words, to people living in the dark, chained up in a cave, they see shadows on a wall. It's impossible to explain to them what the light of the sun actually means, and this is the point that she's making. Or, she asks a rhetorical question, how would your own begin? Your own chalking, if you will, of the sun. Your explanation for this question of immortality. Notice, she never actually uses the term immortality, but she says it's as if you're trying to explain through Cachanel, the red dye, right? What scarlet dye, red dye. We're back to, by the way, poem 60, her only other time to use Cachanel. Can blaze be shown in Cachanel, in other words, the sunrise, or noon in Marazan, the royal blue of the sky? This is the only use of that. The power of the rhetorical question here. What is she saying? In the end, some topics are just translinguistic, and one of those is the question of afterlife. I like the rhetorical power of the rhetorical question here. She is, in some ways, one scholar has pointed out, she uses these questions to unsettle rather than to conclude her poems, and I like that as an idea. And then there's this personal you're, where she's almost speaking directly to you. This is one more reason why we called our series Chats with Emily. And she says, well, I mean, what's the word you come up with it? When you're talking about these unknown things like immortality. And then finally, at 3a, well, I think Plato stands behind this, as does probably a reading of Hamlet as well. Finally, at 3b, how do you try and talk about things that you can't understand? Some of you are saying that's this whole study of Emily's poetry. Powerful. Thank you.